Chapter 18. Blonde and Red Tango. Lemon Chapter. The rest of their week was spent enjoying the Sunagaker lifestyle, though they had yet to pick up where they had left off the first night. During the day, they typically spent the day getting VIP tours around the major things in Sunagaker. During the night, they went to fancy dinners with the Cage, thus making their dinners free. When the time came for them to go back to their hotel, they slept in the same bed together. Each night they went to sleep the same way, both on their opposite side, backs turned to one another with blushes. Both were waiting for the other one to make the first move on the other one to continue where they left off. Regardless, they would always wake up the same way the next morning, Tayayu with her head on his chest while his arm was wrapped around her. Tayayu would always blush when she woke up cuddling into his chest. Naruto would usually wake up first, but not wanting to wake her for a variety of reasons, waking her up, pissing her off and not wanting to stop holding her. Tayayu would blush heavily at this before turning away from him and calling him a pervert. It wasn't that she minded waking up like that, honestly she enjoyed it. It was just their way of saying good morning. She would call him a pervert and he would say love you too. That was how they woke up this morning, their last full day in Sunagaker before returning to Konohagakure the next morning. Naruto went to his usual duties of making her breakfast as she took a shower. When she was finished he took his shower and got dressed in more civilian-like clothes. Tayayu was dressed in civilian clothes as well. She was wearing a black skirt and a gray shirt with a red swirl on the back. Naruto was wearing blue jeans as well as a black shirt with a red swirl on the back of the neck. Naruto sat down at the table their hotel conveniently had. What would you like to do today, Tayayu-chan? Tayayu looked up from the pancakes that Naruto had made her with a shrug. Naruto smiled at her some more. Would you like to have a date while we are here? I can take you out and surprise you with an extravagant evening. Tayayu nodded her head, enjoying the idea of an evening on the town with her blonde-haired boyfriend. Naruto smiled at her and stood up, giving her a quick kiss on the cheek. You be ready to go at 5 tonight, Tayayu-chan. I will see you then. I have to go get everything ready for our date. I will be sending you a package around 1, so be ready for that, okay? Tayayu nodded her head as he smiled at her. I will pick you up at 5, Tayayu-chan. See you then. Naruto gave her a quick kiss on the lips before he left, going to get everything ready for their date. Tayayu did as he asked, being at the apartment at 1 when the package arrived, being delivered by a young Sunagaker genin. Tayayu took the white box into the bedroom and opened it to find a red dress there. It was her size, so she knew why Naruto sent it to her, to wear tonight on their date. Tayayu smirked. Damn shithead, you sure know how to fucking go all out, don't you? Tayayu smiled as she ate a quick but small lunch, then started to get ready for the date that she had with him. The dress was a nice start, was something that was leaving her to wonder what else the blonde-haired Jinchuriki was up to. Currently Naruto was walking away from the restaurant that he just made their reservation at, the Sand Scorpion. Now he was heading to the next part of his date with Tayayu. After he did what he wanted to do there, he was off towards the Sunagaker Oasis to have ready for stargazing. When he was finished it was 4 and he was off to the department store to buy new clothes for that evening. Naruto bought a pair of black slacks, black button-up shirt and a red tie. When he was finished he was back off to the hotel where he knocked on the door. Tayayu came to the door and opened it, smiling at how well Naruto had dressed for their date. Though, it wasn't all that much of a surprise since he had gotten her this expensive and fancy dress. Naruto smiled at her. Good evening, Tayayu-chan, are you ready for our date? Tayayu nodded her head as she closed the door to their hotel room and grabbed the hand he was offering her. Tayayu walked the way she had become accustomed to in Sunagaker, close to him while leaning into him. Naruto smiled as they walked. Did you have a good day, Tayayu-chan? Tayayu nodded her head at him. Yeah, I just laid around the hotel room all day, waiting for my dumb ass's present to arrive. Thank you for this, by the way, Naruto-kun. Naruto smiled at her. Thank you for wearing it, Tayayu-chan. I was right and you look like a goddess in it. Tayayu blushed as she gave him a light punch in the shoulder. Naruto smiled at her as they arrived at the restaurant. Tayayu looked at the restaurant and smiled. This was her favorite one that they had eaten at while here. She knew that was the reason that her blonde-haired boyfriend had picked this restaurant. Naruto led her into the restaurant, opening the door for her. Uzumaki for 2 please. The hostess nodded her head as she looked at them. "This way please." They nodded their heads, then followed after her as she led them to a table in the middle of the restaurant. Naruto pulled out Tayuya's chair for her and smiled at her. "Comfortable, Tayuya-chan?" Tayuya nodded her head at him as he went to his side of the table and sat down as well. They already knew what they wanted to eat. Naruto just continued to smile at her as he looked at her. "Thank you for agreeing, Tayuya-chan." Tayuya smiled at him. "Why would I have said no?" Naruto shrugged at her question. "I don't know, maybe you wouldn't want to go out with me tonight or something." Tayuya shook her head. "Dumbass. Of course I would want to go on a date with you, moron." Naruto smiled at her. "I am glad that you wanted to come with me." Tayuya nodded her head at him. "Tonight. I want to finally finish Naruto-kun." For a moment Naruto didn't know what she was talking about. Eventually though, realization struck him as he knew that Tayuya was referring to the first night that they were there. When they were so close to doing what both of their bodies had wanted to do but were distracted by Akatsuki. Naruto blushed at her as he nodded his head at her. "If that is what you would like to do, Tayuya-chan, you will hear no objections from me." He gave her a smile, both of them blushing from what was going to be happening and playing in their minds. When the time came to order their food, they both got the same thing, steak with a side of ramen. When they finished eating, Naruto led her to the second destination of the evening, a dancing club. Naruto opened the door for her as they entered into it, seeing that there were some couple but not many. Tayuya smiled at him. "We are going to dance, hush shithead-kun." Naruto smiled at her some more. "That is correct, Tayuya-chan, if you want, that is." Tayuya nodded her head at him, then dragged him out onto the dance floor. She wrapped her arms around his neck as he rested his hands on her hips. Naruto smiled as Tayuya rested her head against him, smiling as she was so close to him as they danced. They continued for about an hour before Tayuya was bored of dancing. She was more looking forward to what would happen that evening. Tayuya expected that Naruto was going to walk her back to the hotel. Instead, Naruto walked her to the stop before the hotel room. The small Sunagaku oasis on the outskirts of the village. When they arrived, Tayuya saw that a shadow clone of Naruto was standing there. The clone had a fire burning, blanket out as well as Tayuya's favorite drink ready for them. Tayuya smiled as they approached it. "You really fucking did go all out tonight, didn't you, Naruto-kun?" Naruto smiled at her. "I wanted us to have a special night, Tayuya-chan, something I knew you would enjoy." Tayuya smiled deviously at her blonde-haired boyfriend. "Oh, trust me, I am going to be having a fantastic evening that I will never forget." Naruto blushed again, knowing what she was meaning right away this time. He just nodded his head at her. "Same here, Tayuya-chan." Naruto sat down first, then Tayuya sat on his lap. She was leaning her back into his chest as they sat there looking up at the stars. Naruto smiled. "I thought the sky was clear in Konohagakure, but it's like crystal clear here." Tayuya nodded her head. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Naruto smiled at her. "Almost as beautiful as you, Tayuya-chan." Tayuya blushed. "You already know you're getting laid, Naruto, stop trying so hard." Naruto looked at her, a bit disappointed. She would think that he said it for that reason. Slowly he looked back up at the stars. "I was just saying the truth though, Tayuya-chan, I wasn't saying it for alternative reasons." Tayuya smiled as she kissed him on the cheek before looking up as well. "I want to go back soon, shithead-kun." Naruto nodded his head at her. They sat there for about 30 more minutes before Tayuya's impatience got the better of her. She stood and started to basically drag him back to the hotel. When they got there, she smiled as she closed the door, and the sound of a metal click was all that was heard as she locked the door. "Lemon starts here. If that offends you, skip this part." Tayuya jumped at Naruto, being caught by the blonde-haired man as their lips connected in a passionate and exciting set of kisses. Naruto carried her into the bedroom of their hotel room, laying her down gently. As Naruto laid her down gently, his red-headed goddess started to quickly strip him. She got rid of his tie and shirt within the blink of an eye. Naruto smiled at her as he ran his hands on her sides through the dress that he had bought her. Naruto smiled at her. "It would be a shame to ruin your new dress, Tayuya-chan. I would love to see you in it again." Tayuya nodded her head at him as she sat up and he reached behind her. He grabbed a hold of the zipper and slid it down agonizingly slow. Naruto smiled at he as she was biting her lower lip, becoming flustered with how slow he was doing this just to screw with her. Tayayu pushed him away. God damn it, Naruto. Hurry up and fuck me. Naruto smiled at her as she quickly got rid of her dress, showing that she was in a very revealing thong and bra. Naruto looked at her with loving eyes. But I don't want to fuck you, Tayayu-chan, I want to make love to you. Tayayu looked at him for a second before she slowly started to smile at him. Fuck me, make love to me, make me moan your name in ecstasy. Whatever you want to do, just hurry up and do it. I waited all week for you to ravish me, but you never made a move on me, damn it. Naruto slowly pushed her down onto the bed, hovering above her while they both wore blushes. I was waiting for you too though, Tayayu-chan. Tayayu lunged up at him, capturing his lips in another kiss as her hands trailed lower. Her head slid down into his pants. For the first time she grabbed a hold of his member. Earlier in the week, she had grinded into him but never touched him herself. Naruto's breath hitched as he felt his girlfriend's touch on his most personal and private area. Naruto kissed her on the neck as she continued to slowly run her fingers up and down his shaft slowly. She slowly removed her hand and undid the button on his pants, sliding them off of him. She looked at the green boxers with whirlpools on them, smiling before removing them as well. Naruto looked at her, now completely in the nude in front of her. Tayayu blushed, taking in the figure and overall look of Naruto in the nude. Naruto smiled at her as his hand ran up her well-toned stomach to her black, lace bra. He could see through them and see her erect pink nipples. Naruto reached behind her and unclasped the bra, freeing her gorgeous mounds from their prison. He kissed down her neck, to her chest then onto her nipple. He sucked it into her mouth making her let out a small moan. He wasn't done yet though. His hands rested on her kneecaps for a moment then slid them up her legs to her thong that matched her bra. He could see her well-kept red pubic hair as well as her wet womanhood. His fingers hooked around the fabric and slowly pulled them off of her as he released her breast from his mouth. Naruto continued his kissing escapade down her body to her womanhood, giving it an experimental lick. Naruto found that he truly enjoyed the taste of his red-headed girlfriend. He started to lick her lips multiple times before slowly inserting his tongue into her core. Tayayu gasped as her core was invaded by her blonde-haired lover's tongue. Her back arched and her eyes rolled back a little as she moaned loudly, "Shit fuck." Naruto couldn't help but smile at her reaction as he started to lick around her inside some more. His tongue was rubbing up against all of the walls and surfaces that he could reach. He noticed that his red-haired lover was bucking wildly, "Fuck. I am fucking coming." Naruto didn't stop his ministrations and kept on going, bringing her to her release. He licked up her juices as they leaked out and she panted heavily. Naruto smiled as he looked at her. "Did that feel good to Tayayu-chan?" Tayayu could only nod her head. It was amazing for her, pure bliss. Naruto had become extremely aroused from eating out his girlfriend. She looked down and saw that as well, grabbing a hold of his member again. Naruto looked at her then let out a moan as she started to stroke his member. Naruto looked at her, "Tayayu-chan." Tayayu smiled as she sat up then slowly leaned down, giving him a lick on the tip of his cock. Tayayu was in the same boat as Naruto was, enjoying the taste and feeling that it gave her. His head was going up and down him quickly, taking half of his shaft into her mouth as he let out a small moan. Naruto put his hand on her head as he sped up her bobbing motions. Naruto groaned some more as Tayayu reached down and started to fondle his balls. That made him moan louder, "Oh Kami. Tayayu-chan." Naruto's eyes rolled back a little as her head was going further and further down his shaft with each bob. Naruto was close to his edge though and he knew that. Naruto groaned again, "Tayayu-chan. I am close." Tayayu sped up her pace, swirling her tongue around the top of his member prompting him to come. When he came to his release, he shot his load inside of her mouth. Naruto sighed in relief as he smiled at the amazing feeling that the blowjob his red-haired goddess had given her. Naruto looked at Tayayu who just finished swallowing his cum. He slowly put his hand on her breast and pushed her back onto the bed. "Tayayu-chan, are you sure about this?" Tayayu nodded her head yes as she watched Naruto align himself to claim her virginity in one thrust. Naruto looked at her, leaning down to prepare his thrust. Naruto whispered in her ear, "I love you Tayayu-chan." Tayayu smiled, "I love you too." Naruto smiled then slowly inserted himself inside of her. Naruto felt his tip reach her barrier,